Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about engine out aerodynamics and multi-engine aircraft. Let's see if I can get this a little closer. So hopefully you can see what I've written here. There we go. Okay. Engine out aerodynamics and multi-engine aircraft. So this is another one of the big topics you're going to be teaching your students because everything's the same when you're flying a multi-engine when both engines are working, but when one engine works, then that's where you earn your license at. So we need to be aware of how the aircraft's going to react depending on which engine has failed. And when we're talking about engine out aerodynamics, we're going to be talking about how a critical engine sort of is determined here. Things that really demonstrates what a critical engine is and why it's critical due to the aerodynamics during engine out. So let's get right into it. So we have the acronym PAST, P-A-S-T. These are all going to be aerodynamic principles that your students are familiar with already, but as they apply to multi-engine aircraft, it's a little different. So these are the factors. These are your engine out aerodynamics here. So you've got P factor, we're all familiar with that, accelerated slipstream, spiraling slipstream, and torque effect. And what kind of negative effect they each have, I've written that in purple there. P factor yaws the aircraft, accelerated slipstream rolls it, spiraling slipstream yaws it, and torque effect rolls it. So let's talk about this. So P factor in a multi-engine aircraft, and we're going to assume the left engine fails here. So you can see P factor, asymmetric propeller thrust. It's in a climb, right? Climb or descent, but we're talking about in a climb here. Your descending blade is creating more thrust, asymmetric thrust, right? So we can see our arm from the left engine and our arm from the right engine. So you can see that the adverse effect of the asymmetric thrust, if let's say this right engine failed, right? This guy's done. Now the yawing effect from that left engine, if it's still running, would be less than if the left engine failed, which is the critical engine on conventional American-made conventional aircraft. If your left engine fails, you see that the arm right here from your thrust to your center of gravity is much longer, giving you a much greater yawing effect on that. The right engine will yaw the aircraft much more to the left than the left engine would yaw the aircraft much more to the right. So that's how P factor affects your aircraft and engine out operations. So now we'll talk about accelerated slipstream. That is kind of linked to P factor here, right? Because if you're not in a climb, then theoretically, both sides of this propeller disc would be creating the same amount of lift, right? If you weren't in a climb, you'd have something like this going on, equal amounts of lift throughout the propeller disc. But accelerated slipstream in this example is going to be in a climb. Same thing, right? You're looking at your arms from one engine to another. So the accelerated slipstream over here is going to be farther away from your center of gravity than it would be for your left engine. Let's say you lost your right engine, the arm from the accelerated slipstream towards your center of gravity is smaller than if you were to lose. Let's say we lost the left engine, right? Left engine's out. Now your right engine's arm, where it's creating that accelerated slipstream due to the P factor, right? Asymmetric propeller thrust. As it's coming, that accelerated slipstream is coming over the wing, creating more lift, right? So now you're creating more lift farther away from the center of gravity. So, and again, we see why that left engine is a critical engine, because this aircraft will roll. It'll roll more when your left engine fails and you're left with the right. The engine that remains is the right engine. You can see the arm from where that roll is being created on the right engine. So your aircraft will roll more if your left engine fails. That's another reason why your left engine is a critical one. So now let's talk about spiraling slipstream. We're all familiar with that and the left turning tendency it creates in single engine aircraft. So in our multi-engine aircraft, another thing that determines our determines that the left engine is the critical one. So we can see these two slipstreams. The slipstream of the right engine just spirals off into the distance, doesn't affect the aircraft. This spiraling slipstream of the left engine spirals into that into the empennage and the tail surface, counteracting the yaw that that the aircraft would be experiencing from having, let's say, this right engine failed here. So right engine's dead. The aircraft wants to yaw this direction, but since this slipstream is hitting your tail, the slipstream counteracts that yaw a little bit. So that's if the left engine is running. If only the right engine is running, now you've got nothing to counteract that yawing effect of that right engine wanting to come around. So that's another thing we see here with that left engine, the critical one being failed, nothing to counteract that yaw of that engine. And then we have the T of the past here. That's torque effect, and that's going to create a rolling moment in your aircraft. We can see here Newton's third law, right? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. In our conventional twin, our propellers are rotating clockwise. So the resultant torque effect is in a counterclockwise direction. So again, let's look at this when an engine's failed, right? So if your left engine has failed, this aircraft, this engine is already dead, and there's no more spiraling slipstream accelerated slipstream over here. This side has accelerated slipstream, and it also wants to roll towards that dead engine, right? So this torque effect increases that roll rate towards the dead engine. You can see it would want to roll towards the dead engine more. So now let's say, so that's if that left engine's failed, right? So let's say the right engine's failed, which is our non-critical engine. We got this guy failed. Typically, this side's creating more lift. It would want to roll in that direction, but the torque effect of the equal and opposite reaction of your propeller rotating clockwise, that counterclockwise torque effect would decrease the amount of roll towards that dead engine. So the engine that has the greatest effect on controllability, if it fails, we can see is the left engine here. So let's say that left engine's gone, no more torque effect. This aircraft wants to roll more towards the left engine because of that torque effect. And I'm trying to keep it short here so I don't lose you all. And that's all I have for today. Past. Remember that one. PAST.